All right, there she is. Hi guys, I'm just getting Allison in. All right, it's just connecting. Hey everyone, let me know where you're watching from. Send an emoji. Hey!
Hi! Oh my gosh!
How are you?
I'm so good. I'm so happy to chat with you.
Me too. Yay! So this is episode 3 of Get Dreaming With for anyone who hasn't tuned in before. So it's basically a kind of quick fire interview, this time with Allison, but we do it with dreamers around the world to find out about who you are, why you do this work, what you're working on at the moment, and all those cool things. So oh wait, I can hear a bit of feedback. Am I turned on any other device at your end?
I don't think so. I do hear the feedback a little bit too, hopefully. Let me just turn down the volume a bit. Maybe that'll help.
Hey, Ollie, he's in here. Cool. So let me give Allison a real quick intro. Hi, Jennifer. All right, so Allison was recently featured on Netflix and Vox Media's The Mind Explained, which is a really cool show. They have an episode about dreaming, and Allison did the section on lucid dreaming. But she gives talks on the importance of sleep, our creative powers of dreams. You've studied with some really cool people, including Andrew Holecek, Kristen LaMarca. And your ambitions are kind of to lead and inspire people to prioritize sleep, develop dream skills, use the lucid dream states for, a source of inspiration, creativity, well-being, and to connect.
Yeah.
Is that about right?
That sounds exactly right. And thank you so much for having me, Lana. It's such a joy and a pleasure to chat with you today.
Yeah, we're so excited to be here. So you've obviously been exploring lucid dreaming very deeply. When did you start and how did you get into all this?
Yeah, that's like the primary question that most people ask. And I think that for most dreamers, I'm sure yourself as well, it did start in childhood, where there was some sort of fascination when I was a kid with lucid dreaming. A lot of people can remember their sort of first moment of lucidity, but I think it happened a lot over my childhood. And over the years, through high school and through college, I always had this really deep, innate fascination with the dreaming space, but never really did anything about it. It was kind of just there. And a lot of people who I chat with on a day-to-day basis also just are interested, but haven't sort of taken that next step to study and engage with it. But then about 2.5 years ago, I'd say now, or 2 years ago now, I decided to just finally really tap into this space, doing all kinds of studies around, like you mentioned, with different leaders and reading all the books. I've read so many different books on the subject and have an opinion on so many, and just went down the rabbit hole starting about 2 years ago. And it's funny too, I think it's worth noting, especially to our viewers here, when I first started this project for myself and really getting deeply into it, my dream recall was, just like everyone else's, it was nothing. It was zero. It was like 1 a week, maybe if I was lucky. But, now I recall, between 3 to 7 a night, depending. And it just is with consistent practice and keeping it up and studying the material and being proactive about it. It's not a passive thing. It happens to us, but when we start engaging with it actively, things start to really happen, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's so cool. So if you could, obviously you said, your practice has developed over time.
Yeah.
If you could go back to when you first started and start again, is there anything you would do differently, now knowing what you know?
I'd say it's funny that you asked that. I don't think I would do anything differently, because a big part of my practice that is really unique to me is that I keep this massive spreadsheet, which unfortunately the Netflix show didn't cover, maybe because that doesn't make for compelling television spreadsheets. But I've recorded as of last night about I could get the number 1,800 dreams in that 2-year period, 1,812. And what I started with the spreadsheet, and I have my computer with me if you guys can see it, sort of. It's very detailed. There's I'll show quickly. There's a lot of charts and graphs and things that start to get really interesting. And I started that right at the beginning. So that was a big thing for me, like starting with a whole vision of what I wanted to do. And that's really hard to start with. Yeah. But I will say one of the biggest lessons that I learned that I wish I had at the beginning was the level of patience. You know, I think people tend to give up very quickly. Like I haven't had a lucid dream in this many I've been practicing for years or whatever, and the giving up is a real thing. In fact, it took me, I'd say about 90 days to have my first natural lucid dream in this zone. Mm-hmm. So for me, there were so many times where I was like, why am I not doing this right? Am I not trying hard enough? All the things that I think early people face, and probably people who are listening to this will face, is that just really giving yourself the time and space to know that this is a practice that lasts forever. So don't worry about how fast or slow you're going. It doesn't really matter, because just keeping up with it, it will yield results. And that's the beauty of hindsight is that you know that later, but you don't know that in the moment. You know, you're like, I'm not getting anywhere with this, you know, but you can and you will with time.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's great advice. I always tell people to kind of think of it like a sport, like it's something that you might do really well on day one, but then, you know, to actually have it as a solid practice in your life, you do need to, you know, be practicing at least a couple of times a week to every day, depending on how dedicated you are. But I love the spreadsheet too.
It's a bit much for most people, but I do a project that I'm working on is to scale it back for more broader consumption, so that people that aren't as dedicated or as crazy maybe as we are can actually do it in a lightweight way. Because I do think, Lana, one of the biggest things that I also, in talking to a lot of people about this and doing the talks that I do, a lot of the questions are around like, how do I do this without disrupting my life? Because it can feel like a lot of work. And in some cases it is. You're getting up in the middle of the night, you're constantly thinking about, am I dreaming? Am I not dreaming? Just like part of your day-to-day life. And so in my evolution in the past 2 years, I was really focused on making the least disruption to my life as possible. You know, I sleep with a partner, so really not disrupting him. And as well as it not making it being a focus in my life, but not being the primary focus of my life. So you really have to like find the things that the groove that works for you. It's kind of like a diet too. Like I know the things, you know, I'm constantly doing things during the day to be like, oh, is this a dream? Am I not dreaming? I'll do different, you know, reality checks when it comes up, but I don't feel, I've gotten to a place where I don't feel like I'm overdoing it, but it took some doing to get to the point of like, I'm not disrupting my whole entire existence to fit around this. It fits around me. It works really well right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it is, you know, seemingly overwhelming, especially when people just dive into a book and then it's, you know, giving a million different things that you can do during one day. It's definitely trial and error and finding what works for you. I will let you know that I was inspired by you. I have started my own spreadsheet. I'm in the crazy club now.
I love that.
So
I mean, as long as I can inspire people to like really have a relationship with their dreams. And I think the spreadsheet for me, I mean, for some people, it's not going to work for them. I think, you know, if you're more dedicated, obviously like you are, who are teaching and leading in this space will work for you. But even there's a lightweight way to do it that for one, over the many years of trying to write down it's a dream journal essentially, you know, just a digital version. And over the years, oh my God, I cannot write freehand anymore. We live in a digital world and I'm not trying to like get up and novel all my dreams every day. It's too difficult. But when I translated this notion of like a written journal, and I love physical things, so I intend to print book versions of all of my dreams at a certain point. That's another project. But doing it completely digital, using voice dictation to sort of write the dream later. I do the keyword approach. So all throughout the night, whenever I wake up and have an awakening in the middle of the night, I'll jot down whatever I was thinking about if there was no dream, or just like notes. And actually it's funny because sometimes I can't read them, but you know, they kind of look like this. This is a little, so you can see my light. It's a little just scraps and each dream is on there. And then I read them in the morning and just to make sure that they are solidified in memory. Sometimes they're not. I'm like, I have no idea, A, what this says, or B, what the heck I was dreaming about. And I don't log those. But if I have the full narrative, I'll write it up in there, and it's easy.
Sometimes that's all people need is like just even a couple of words, or like a person, the place they were in, and then you kind of get this flashback and the whole dream can come back to you. So if you're someone who isn't all about like logging everything or making a spreadsheet or doing some insane stuff like that, then it's good to know that you can just write down a couple of quick things,
and that's effective enough. Like I think people tend to just they see people like us or others that just like have this like huge notebook of everything they've ever written, and they're like, oh, I can't do this because of that. And you're like, no, the approach can be as small and or as intensive as you want it to be, as long as it's consistent and you're doing it every day and you're actually taking the time to write something and go back and look at it via scrap sheets of paper, via spreadsheet, via journal, whatever works. Like you don't have to comply to sort of any specific standard, and it will work for you.
Absolutely. So let's dive into kind of more about you. Who's inspiring for you in this field? Like whose work do you follow? Who gives you that?
Gosh, there are so many amazing people, which you are well aware of. I think actually I have his book. Andrew Holecek was probably the first one in my resurgence that I really, really just followed to a T. Dream Yoga, it's backwards obviously, but his book is really fantastic, and he has a really fantastic audio version of his book where he reads it, and it's very approachable and warm and touches sort of Eastern traditions and Tibetan dream yoga, which is really fascinating to me, but also really talks about practical sort of Western approaches as well that feels more approachable if you're not sort of bent in a spiritual way. I thought it really did a fantastic job bringing the two together. I work with Andrew on his retreat. I did that last year, probably do it again this year, helping manage some of that stuff with him, which has been such a joy and a treat. I love working with Andrew. He's so wonderful. And I also really love Kristen LaMarca, who really brings the sort of research and science into the spectrum, and Stephen LaBerge as well, who I connected with, obviously, with Andrew. I really appreciate his approach to data and science. I'm obviously with my spreadsheet and trying to find ways to uncover data and patterns, really gravitate toward his approach from the science aspect. And Kristen as well, obviously she is a protege of his, and I feel really strongly about her approach. And then I also like going down sort of the more esoteric approaches, like Robert Moss, who really brings the shamanistic vision and looking at journeying, which I did a retreat with him as well. And just, I love his like science to the wind, you know what I mean? Like opens up lots of doors of which, you know, I'm open to, even though I tend to lean more toward the sort of science of it all. But I think it's really interesting to explore, because what is so exciting to me about dreams in general is this uncharted territory that exists. We still know very little. We know and we don't know, and I think that's a pretty exciting place to be, and a pretty amazing place to explore. So, you know, that's why I get really excited about following sort of both like science and rigor and magic at the same time to see what happens. I'm so open. You have to be in this space.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that you said that, because I know a lot of people can get tied into, you know, I'm one or the other, like it's either science or it's total magic. And I really don't think it has different people bringing different approaches of dream work, and it really opened up my mind to exactly what you're saying, how it doesn't have to be just A or B. Like there's everything in between that. And it's really cool to, you know, explore a multitude of people and, you know, not have like one dream guru or something like that.
I know. And I think it's cool because it also reflects sort of how we all feel about dreams, right? So you have people who are really emotionally resonant with their dreams. You have people that are really spiritually involved with their dreams, depending on their cultural upbringing or their background. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to have mentors and leaders that which you can look to that reflect sort of what you feel, but open you up to other possibilities too. And I think that's what's so cool about dreaming too. And like, I tend to use the food analogy quite a bit because I think that there's obviously there's an approach, there's a cuisine for dreaming. There is a type of diet for dreaming. There's different ways of approaching it entirely. And I'm so convinced that there are kind of like the personality traits, that there are dreaming traits. Like some people are this kind of dreamer and some people are that kind of dreamer, and different things will work for them and different ideas will resonate with them. And I'm really interested in exploring these ideas of like, we don't all dream the same way. We don't all dream in color for that matter. And so it's really a curious world to start thinking about patterns and types and finding a common language, which it's often hard to find because we're describing very personal, very individual. I'll try to speak slower, sorry. Very individual. Excited. I'm excited, I love this topic. But very individual experiences that no one can experience but you. So those are things I'm pretty excited about.
Yeah. What would you say, sorry, you've shown us your spreadsheet. That's obviously a very individual thing of you. What else do you have in your kind of dream work ritual? Like, are there particular things you do in the morning or the evening?
Yeah. So I there are a couple things that I do on a daily basis. I have this heuristic that I call sort of the off approach to reality checking. And that really means like out of place, out of character, out of the ordinary, out of bounds, things like this. Anything that fits the sort of out of bounds model, I'll do a reality check for. So anything at all. So when my partner is acting out of character, I'll be like, am I dreaming? Or I like to find ways to fold in anything that feels sort of out of, and that's happening throughout the day. I do a perspective memory exercise, which basically is reminding me to do something later. So every time I leave the house, I do a reality check. And when I can remember to do that, it actually is more challenging than it might seem. But every time I open the door, I'll do one. Reality check. And then meditation, I love sort of the modern view of mindfulness. So I use apps like Headspace and Calm, which I think are a really great asset.
Headspace too.
Yeah. I think they're such a great asset for today's sort of busy culture. I mean, I have a desk job as well in which I'm, moving at the pace of life and, but I give myself that time to use Headspace. So I think that those are big things. So that's kind of what the day looks like typically, just kind of having a moment of like, am I dreaming at those out of moments and via like just when I leave the house. At night I'm doing intention setting before bed. So the goals of what, if I do become lucid, what I want to do, as well as just general intention. So I'll remember my dreams tonight. I'll have great dreams tonight, and just kind of I'll remember them. I do an exercise right when I go to bed too of intending to wake up fully after each sleep cycle. So everyone goes through 5 to 6 sleep cycles a night, and you have micro awakenings after each one. We're just so unaware of them. So I've been training myself to actually fully wake up so I can record any dream at that moment. So I'll say a little intention before bed. That's something to the effect of, I'll wake up after each sleep cycle. I'll remember what I was dreaming about and just repeat that mantra a few times. And then of course, I think, maybe the people listening know this or not, but sort of wake back to bed is sort of the best way to sort of catch your dreams, as in you wake up 2 hours before you normally do, or 6 hours after you've been sleeping, depending on how you want to look at it. And just set an alarm to wake up and just stay awake for 10, 15 minutes and then go back to sleep. I do that every night too. And all very effective ways to just exist. I do think
Yeah, I love that.
Quality sleep. And did I lose you? Did I lose
Are you
you?
still there?
Hello? Yes, I'm here. I think I lost you.
It's gone a little bit.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
you're still there for me.
No.
Just touching your face. It's got a little bit of a foggy connection, but I think it's coming through.
Yes. There we go.
We're back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
No worries. I think it's clearing up, so we should be good to come.
Awesome.
But yeah, I love what you're saying about that as well, and you know, fitting it into your life and doing those things like reality checking just when you walk through a door or change environment, because those are just really common things that happen in our dreams, right? It's like going from one place to a total different place. So
Exactly.
being able to do those simple things that just fit into our daily routines are such easy ways to achieve lucidity. And yeah, it doesn't take any effort to, you know, say a mantra before bed, do a little 5-minute meditation, or just set an intention. Those are all really simple tools that are so effective as well.
Yeah, and I think what's worth noting that I was trying to say during our little internet flap was that getting a lot of sleep is critical to this, because obviously the more you sleep, the more REM time you have, and the more REM time, the more dreams you have, and the more opportunity for you to have lucid dreams. So I tend to target a 9-hour sleep per night when I can. I know that's not realistic for everyone at all times, but I really prioritize getting really great sleep and getting the duration of sleep that you need to be in a dreaming practice. You just need, the more you sleep, the more dreaming opportunities you have. So
Absolutely.
without overdoing it, of course.
Yeah. Someone just asked a really good question saying, what gestures do you do when you reality check?
Yeah. So I do a couple. I tend to cycle through whatever I'm feeling like, because I tend to believe that whatever you feel like you're naturally going to do, it'll just show up in a dream. So often recently I've been doing a finger pull check, where when I pull my finger, it just goes crazy. This happened a couple nights ago where I wasn't sure. I was in the airport. And I was like, maybe I'm in a dream, and I did this, and it just like extended crazy, and I was like, holy shit, no way, I was not
expecting fingers. Yeah.
So
I've actually had the finger check before where my entire finger has just come off, and I was like, all right, that's a clear sign as well. I'll take it.
Yeah, that's amazing. I look at my hand a lot, because I mean, that's a classic one. Where in my dreams, my fingers are like crazy long or moving in strange ways. So I'll just kind of give them a look. Other ones that I do are the rereading. So if I'm near text or whatever, I'll read that again. And in a dream, the text would appear really unstable and wouldn't be the same words twice after looking at it. And then sometimes I'll do the nose pull or nose to see if I can still breathe with it closed. I tend to do that one when I'm near water for some reason. It seems like I would just go underwater and figure out that I can't breathe, or that I can breathe, but I tend to do them. I tend to do multiple ones, just because whatever naturally shows up in a dream will go there, as opposed to relying on one and only one. So I usually cycle through a bunch. If I'm out during my morning, sort of when I leave the house, I have stairs, and I usually jump off that as a little like, maybe I'll fly. Because of course, jumping is another form of reality check, where you'll take off if you jump in a dream.
I love those. Yeah. I think those are all again really simple, and I like telling people that, you know, just pulling your finger throughout the day, again, something that you can do that no one else would even really notice.
Nobody notices that. You know, I when I first started this, I did have this notion of like, oh my God, I'm not embarrassed, but like feeling like people were looking at me, but nobody cares. Nobody's paying attention to anybody else.
No, yeah.
And when you're just like looking at your hand for a minute, like I think I've noticed some people on the train looking at me, but I'm all like, don't care.
Yeah. I do it as well because I do a hand flip one where my hand will
Yeah.
change into like, you know, a bear paw or a claw or like a weird witchy hand or something. So I think, yeah, the weirdest time I get is if I'm kind of flipping my hand and someone's like, what is she doing? But
Yeah.
that's fine. I'll take that.
I know.
Done
For
weirder
what
things.
we get out of it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So can you share with us maybe a recent lucid dream or even an old one, an old classic, or just one that stands out to you that, yeah.
Sure. Oh my God, there's so many to choose from.
Yeah.
I feel very fortunate having put the work into it that I do have, you know, at least 2 to 3 a week when I'm not traveling. But one that always stands out for me because I love being in nature and I love animals is a dream I had. This was in probably July, I'd say, of 2019 of last year.
Yeah.
Where I was at my childhood home where it started. It was a beautiful morning, just stunning gold light. And something seemed so like magical about it that it didn't feel real. So I did a reality check. Am I dreaming? And I did a reading state check where I looked at my watch and the time was just going crazy. And so I was like, oh, I'm definitely in a dream. And this childhood bedroom didn't actually look like my real one. It just had this sort of like vibe of it, of course. And so I draw open the shades and I see outside and it's just mountains and gorgeous like rocky water features. It was so beautiful. If you're familiar with Lake Tahoe, it was very much like Lake Tahoe.
Sounds
And
lovely.
I fly out the window to go to the top of the mountains, but I for some reason stopped and I only make it to sort of a ledge. And I'm climbing up this ledge of rocks and water everywhere. And all of a sudden, all these animals just start coming out of the woodwork. There are some crows flying in, some porpoises in the water, and they're all gathering to sort of like be in my presence. And I was like, well, I feel really good about this.
Disney princess over here.
So happy to be near me. And what are there? Porpoises. There was a goat. There was a lot of crows. And it just, something about it felt super powerful and as if I was sort of commanding them in some way, but they're also very deeply respectful. And then I was climbing this ladder and like met a goat with horns that just like stood over me. And then I woke up and I was like, what was that? It just really stuck with me. That's the one dream that I've tried to go back into to like get more out of it. Not successfully.
Return to the goat.
Working on it.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah. And those joyful sort of moments of just feeling empowered and having this feeling of bigness that you don't experience on a day-to-day basis. It's just really cool to wake up and just feel sort of strength and bring that into day-to-day life, sort of lucid living in that way of being able to take that emotion and bring it into how you experience the world.
Definitely. Yeah. I think that's one of the coolest things about lucid dreams as well is like that connection with animals and nature, which for me, like it feels so different to my waking life. I'm not really around animals, but then you go into the lucid state and like you're saying, they all flock to you or you can kind of communicate either. Sometimes they have a voice or like sometimes it's more telepathic, but there's just this different connection. And then obviously because we can do different things, you know, I've had experiences of like running with cheetahs or like with whales and all this cool stuff. So yeah, I really resonate with that as well.
Yeah, and I you know, outside my actual childhood window, there's no Tahoe or animals or anything. It's just a regular suburban neighborhood. So when you can bring that sort of joy also to a really happy place, like something connects sort of profoundly. And I think it's what's so cool about these experiences is that, yes, I was lucid, but I wasn't control. I didn't like ask for the animals to show up or any of it. I just experienced the sort of magic in everyone coming to me. And that was really special, I think. And one that resonates with me. There's so many dreams that go on. I mean, there's so many stories to tell, but for some reason that one has really stuck with me over time.
I like that. Yeah. And I like how you were saying, you know, it wasn't all about you controlling the entire dream, more just like consciously experiencing it as it kind of unfolds. I think that's super cool.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point that you make, Lana, because I think people tend to think, oh, I can control every aspect of everything. And you sort of can through lots of experience, but it's more about influencing and choices and decisions that you make within the space, as opposed to like changing everything and painting everything and making everything different. I really like to approach lucid dreaming and like, I know what's going on. If I have a specific goal that I'm working on, or maybe something I'm trying to heal or work through, then I'll actively try to find those. But if I'm just trying to explore my subconscious, then I'll let what happens, or I'll ask a question, but I'll try to work with what's presented and influence, not sort of overtake, which I think is an important thing to distinguish.
Super important. Yeah. So what would you say you're kind of focused on this year? What's your 2020 visions with lucid dream work?
Amazing question that I'm still trying to solve for myself. There's so many projects that I have ongoing, from the various talks that I've been doing, but also really taking my spreadsheet and dialing it down to serve a greater audience so that viewers can use that in a way. And then I also want to work on, so a lot of insights are in my spreadsheet: patterns, data, recognition around like themes that I think are general dream themes as opposed to just my dream themes. So I'm trying to find a way to articulate sort of that data approach in a way that we can start to understand like universal themes a little bit more. So that's a big project that I'm working on. I'm also working with a database developer on creating less of a spreadsheet but more of a database to capture this information across dreamers around the world so that we can all start working toward a shared vocabulary. That's kind of a project that I have in mind. Other things in the works, a little bedside kit for people to manage and write their own dreams and things like that. So lots of little projects underway. Nothing officially announced or launched yet, but I always have like 8 projects going on at once.
I know that feeling. Yeah, I love that though. And that's great. Maybe we will have to do like a weekend of spreadsheet stuff together.
I know. And I really want to put together, I know Jen knows this and you as well, a women's group of dreamers too. So to really connect with dreaming women around the world. It's a little different. Obviously, super love the guys too. No offense there. All love, but I do want to put together a collaboration of dreaming women and in the next couple weeks, and obviously would love your involvement in that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So any women tuning in or watching this on replay or anything, if you want to be involved, reach out to us, let us know so we can start this thing going.
Love it. Good. Yes.
Yay. So for people who are interested in you, want to connect with you, so obviously I'm going to post this in a couple of different places.
Great.
Where can people connect to you? Can people work with you, go to retreats, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I mostly active on Instagram as The Sleeping Third. You can find me there. And then my website also is thesleepingthird.com. I do most of my content updates on both the website and Instagram. I'm a little bit active on Twitter. I just share the dream titles that I have each night there and a couple other places. But those 2 places are the best way to get in touch with me. You can also email me at allison@thesleepingthird.com if you want. I'm very responsive. I always love talking to people about the subject, of course. So, yeah.
Cool. And I will try and put links everywhere as well at some point. So who would you love to see on this series? It's been amazing having you. Who would you want to see? Obviously, I can't guarantee I can get them, but
I really love the group that we're involved in the content lucid dreaming group that we are both involved in. I really enjoy Mason. From Aboard the Dream Train. I love to see him participate in this. Of course, Reese as well. I think those would be my top 2 for next. James as well. I mean, there's so many amazing people in this space that are worth having a chat with, who all have really interesting different perspectives. So I think those 3, the guys, one of those 3 would be my top next for you.
Noted. Thank you, Allison. I'm gonna I'm trying to keep these as short as possible. They're supposed to be quick fire. It's totally impossible because it's so exciting to talk about all this stuff. But thank you so much for doing this today. What would you like to have as your, signing off message for anyone that tuned in?
Keep it up, have the patience, and always remember that this is the dream. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Allison. I'll speak to you soon.
Alrighty, bye.
Bye.